Welcome to Module 13, Adjustments to Planning for Transition Age Youth. This final module, in a series of online learning modules, provides an introduction to care coordination using the Wraparound practice model in alignment with the National Wraparound Initiative. These modules focus on providing an introduction to the practice model, wraparound facilitation skills and competencies to implement the model, and links to further resources for the learner about wraparound practices. The Butler County Family and Children First Council partnered with the Center for School-Based Mental Health Programs at Miami University to produce the learning modules. Please push the forward arrow on the bottom right to advance to the next slide. Here are the module's objectives. Through this module, participants will be able to understand the complex needs of youth transitioning to adult services and supports, learn modifications to the wraparound process in order to incorporate the specialized needs of transition age youth, and assess the struggles teams often face when planning for transition age youth. When speaking about transition age youth, we are talking about 14 through 21-year-olds as they are developing greater independent functioning. This generally involves moving out from their dependence on family relationships and a bigger reliance on peer relationships. It is a time of increased skill development emotionally, socially, and for independent living. The shift in relationships can be confusing at times to those around the youth as they work out their place in the bigger world. In terms of facilitating wraparound planning for youth and young adults of this age, there are some adjustments or accommodations that may need to be made as you serve this population. Developmentally, there are certain tasks that are more important, and there is a shift in the location of decision-making that the facilitator needs to attend to in wraparound planning for these individuals. We will review some of the areas the facilitator needs to pay attention to. One of the primary domains for youth at these ages is in the area of school and work. The youth or young adult at this age have more decisions as to where they want to go to school, increased choices and decisions about the focus of their education, as well as often increased responsibility and demands from those providing the education. It is often during these ages that youth begin preparing for and searching out work. The youth or young adult begins thinking about career interests and goals. They may need extra support to be ready for work and face challenges of competing with others to find work. This occurs while the youth is going through many personal changes developmentally. Adolescence is a time of increased body changes. The young person is adjusting their self-image and understanding of who they are. Their brain is developing, still not fully forming until around age 25. These changes occur while the youth is looking to peers for relationships and also for comparison as to how well they are adjusting to the changes going on within and around them. Some of the hallmarks of this time is that transition age youth and young adults need and deserve a greater opportunity for decision making. They more often learn by experience and doing than by what has been told them. Their family relationships are changing from dependence to independence to interdependence. They act in ways to demonstrate their independence from their family and in time see how they are interdependent and that they don't have to lose their new identity when they still depend on others, but now interact more mutually. It is common for transition age youth to try new things without committing to them fully. This may involve them making and changing their commitments. They may change big parts of their life frequently and temporarily. Please take a moment to reflect on the following questions and type your answers in the boxes provided. First, as a facilitator working with this population, what would you consider important in your stance or relationship with these youth and young adults? Think back about yourself at this age. What did you need from adults in your life? Keeping these ideas in mind, we will go through the phases of the wraparound process and highlight some issues and ideas to be mindful of as you serve transition age youth and young adults. Please type your answer in the box and then hit Submit to continue. In the engagement phase with transition age youth and young adults, it is important to listen for their vision of the life they want. This may be different than what their parents want for them. The facilitator needs to reflect back to youth or young adult that you are hearing what they want and not judging them for it. The facilitator needs to be sure to learn their strengths in an individual conversation with them without the influence of others. As they are developing their identity more fully, they are trying things out to see what works for them. There are strengths there, if seen from a supportive, non-judgmental lens, even when the behaviors may seem inconsistent or temporary. For young adults, the facilitator needs to focus on life domains specific to young adulthood. This involves emphasis on employment and career, their next living situation, continued learning and education, community life, feeling personally effective, and sense of overall well-being. Exploring these will provide a fuller picture of the life they want and where to focus the planning process to address their needs specific to this stage in their life. Oftentimes, this period is one of survival. Where are they going to live? How they are going to pay the bills and pay for and get their education. Part of the consideration of the facilitator is the youth or young adult's understanding of family. The ways we define family changes over the course of our lives, from who we were born to who we live with, to who are we closest. For emerging adults, family often becomes who we are connected to emotionally. It may mean being around those who share a similar lifestyle or who have interests in common. Young adults move from coming from a family to building one of their own. This can be challenging for the family the youth or young adult is from or been living with. It means letting go in some ways. Having shared a significant history, this can be hard to do for families. Parents or other family members need to begin to switch thinking of themselves more as being a safety net versus it is their job to keep the youth or young adult safe. They may ask themselves, how much is too much? Should they let go more or not? It is not always clear how best to support the young adult. The family members have to keep in mind thinking for the long run versus just what they want today. Therefore, the facilitator has to help educate family members to this developmentally appropriate change in understanding of family, as well as help the youth or young adult understand the challenge it may be for families. This requires reflecting back to them what they are saying, clarifying their goals, and what they want out of their relationships. Regarding the wraparound process, the youth or young adult voice in the process changes. While always important, their voice becomes more significant as they make more decisions independently. Their ownership or involvement in the process is essential for successfully addressing their needs. For transition age youth, they are often less reliant on parents or caregivers speaking for them. The decisions made by emerging adults may be different than what parents prefer or expect. The decisions they make may seem unwise or even unsafe, and it becomes challenging for those supporting them how best to do that. Some of these decisions may represent trying a new lifestyle or investigating possible choices. Therefore, the facilitator must consider, how does this changing role of youth or young adult voice affect team decision making? Does this mean their voice is given greater weight? How do I handle if this is not a good thing? How do we support the youth even if the team or family is not agreeing with the youth or young adult? For the wraparound process, this means being youth and young adult driven and family supported versus family driven and youth guided, which is how we would often describe the process with younger youth. It is a shift in who is taking the lead and whose voice is more influencing decision making. Another change regarding the process is changing team membership. As the youth or young adult moves away from parents and family, there may be incorporation of new team members, as those significant to the youth or young adult may change. It is important for the facilitator to acknowledge, but not to disavow the move away from family. For all of us, life happens in the context of family, even though who that is changes. As the young person moves into the adult world, there may be changes in community and system representatives, as child-serving systems may end or change providers, and adult systems add new potential team members. Sometimes the youth may have had frustration with child system providers, and when having a choice, will want to separate from them. For older youth who are not yet young adults, voice in team membership increases, but may mean they do not take over membership decisions. Negotiating this with family is critical. Balancing the youth's sense of their voice being respected and having some control with the family's voice and decision making. With the increased reliance on peers for the youth or young adult, it is not unusual for peers participating on teams to occur more often. It is important for the facilitator and team members to be aware of their biases, which may impact their notion of acceptable peers. As is the case often in the wraparound process, those who are significant in some fashion should be at the table. Even if there are conflicts in some of the relationships, this may be a venue to incorporate those viewpoints into the plans that are made, as they will often influence the life of the youth or young adult outside the planning process regardless. Sometimes even, young adults may not initially choose family as team members. This is their choice, but can be difficult for the family. This can be the natural part of being independent to say, I do not need my family. The facilitator needs to respect their choice and encourage them to have their supports at the table, which may mean family joining at a later point. Regarding the team planning, there may be a changing focus and style of supportive interventions. The youth or young adult will continue to need active support as they try out being more independent and interdependent. The action steps in the plan will sometimes focus on being a backup or plan B for the youth or young adult. Sometimes the youth may have felt they had no choice but to attend treatment, take medications, attend school, and once being able to make the choice, choose to stop until they see the value for themselves. They may have felt they had no control over their lives and may start and stop utilizing services or providers as they figure out what is it they want and what they need to get there. Additionally, the interventions that are enlisted need to be developmentally and culturally appropriate services and supports for someone their age. This will require checking out the fit of the services for the youth or young adult. Or, in deciding to utilize a particular support, are they able to adjust for the youth or young adult's preferences in use of the support? Regarding the strengths for the youth or young adult in transition, it is important to pay attention to their dreams, hopes, and vision for themselves. As the youth served ages, a focus on their individual strengths increases as they gain more tools to draw upon. Regarding planning around the unmet needs for this age group, the facilitator is mindful of the developmental tasks for the young adults to successfully transition from their family, completing their education, developing their career path, finding and keeping a job, adjusting to living away from parents, being able to cook, clean, pay bills, forming adult relationships, building a family and raising children, maintaining physical and emotional health, and participating as a citizen in community. Becoming or feeling assured that they can be competent in these tasks are often part of the unmet needs for young adults. Another consideration in working with youth and young adults is how they best communicate with others. For them, social media is how they often keep in touch with others who are significant to them. They use smartphones to look up and share information and make decisions. They often text others versus making phone calls to them. Facilitators need to ask, how does this change how we as facilitators communicate with the youth, with the team? What adjustments do we need to make in our thinking? This will then require the facilitator to adjust how they communicate with the youth or young adult. The expectations of communications from them may be different from those of other team members. Take a moment to think about how you communicate with others as compared to your parents. What might be different? How would that impact how helpers contact you? Additionally, another area of consideration may be the frequency of meetings. Sometimes it is different with young adults. They may feel a need to meet less often and see the team as a support net to when they need them. How do we keep the process moving while honoring the needs of the youth? How do we help the team shift to being a safety net for the youth? This will need to be negotiated with the team of how to balance keeping everyone on board with the young adult's preference to meet less. In navigating serving transition age youth and young adults, the facilitator needs to attend the principles of wraparound, but also adjust to a youth and young adult driven and family supported process. This may involve some negotiations as roles change and leadership shifts to the youth. The facilitator is tasked with getting the team to continue to provide help respectful of the youth's preferences and developmental stage. To recap what we have discussed in this module, the facilitator needs to adjust the way they guide the team in planning, respectful of the complex needs of youth transitioning to adult services and supports. The facilitator guides the team in being more mindful of the youth's developmental stages' impact on decision-making and the focus of the domains the team is planning around. Team membership needs to be attended to, as the youth has more control over who is involved as well as how the youth uses a team, sometimes more often as a safety net than actively coordinating their care. The action steps in the plan will sometimes focus on being a backup or plan B for the youth or young adult. The needs the team is planning around often are related to the importance of the youth or young adult being independent. Lastly, the facilitator needs to be mindful when working with youth and young adults to communicate in a way they best communicate with others. Here are some helpful links to resources as you want to investigate further resources related to wraparound facilitation. Pause the slide if you would like to click on a link. Wraparound Ohio has useful information on the implementation of wraparound in Ohio. The National Wraparound Initiative website has resources and articles on the theory and practice of wraparound. The National Wraparound Implementation Center has resources and handouts from their annual conference. Paperboat.com is the website of Pat Miles and John France with articles and trainings they have developed. Youth Move Ohio is the website of the state chapter of Youth Move, which is a national youth-led organization devoted to improving services and systems that support positive growth and development by uniting the voices of individuals who have lived experience in various systems, including mental health, juvenile justice, education, and child welfare. The Technical Assistance Network has resources and an email sign-up where you can get weekly updates on resource and trainings related to system of care implementation. The Wraparound Evaluation and Research Team has articles and resources for evaluation of wraparound implementation. Congratulations! You have completed Module 13, Adjustments to Planning for Transition Age Youth.